Cohesion is another one of those teamwork words that seems to define high-performing teams. But can there be too much of a good thing? Can cohesion be bad? Let's consider a scenario. Sharon has been assigned to a project team, and she is excited about the opportunity to make a meaningful contribution. The team lead, Shanti, starts the meeting by outlining objectives that she got from the initial client interviews. But when Sharon hears about the proposed timeline of the engagement, she starts to get worried. She's worked on a project like this before, and she knows that the client's expectation is unreasonable. If they make this sort of promise to the client, they are destined for failure. Sharon politely interrupts Shanti and starts to explain what happened on the previous project. But before she even gets to the crux of the issue, Shanti shuts her down.
Thanks for that, Sharon. We appreciate your thoughts on this, but I've already got a good sense for what the client wants.
Sharon is frustrated. That's not the point. It doesn't matter what the client wants if it is impossible to deliver it. She starts to interrupt again, but Tony shoots her a look. She decides to wait until later to discuss the matter with Shanti. After the meeting, she decides to have a quick chat with Tony and Maria. She outlines the concerns that she was trying to share in the meeting, but her frustrations get the better of her.
I don't know why we even have these meetings if Shanti isn't open to what we have to say.
Sharon, can't you see that everyone is on board here? I know you have experience with this sort of project, but every engagement is different. Just because it happened with your previous project, that doesn't mean it will happen here. Don't you trust this team?
Sharon explains it is not about trust, it is about being practical.
Look, Sharon, don't rock the boat on this one. Things will work out okay, you'll see. Let's just try and stay cohesive as a team.
The following week, Sharon receives an email saying that Brian will be replacing her on the project team. First off, we can now see that while Shanti may see Sharon's behavior as undermining to her leadership efforts, from Sharon's perspective, she's just trying to be helpful in improving the team outcome. Yet, she gets shut down both by Shanti and then by her coworkers Tony and Maria. Why does she get shut down? Because teams apparently need strong leadership with a clear vision and cohesion around that vision. Yet we can see that reducing high-performing teams to these basic teamwork cliches might create some unintended consequences that can derail a team. It is therefore important to critically consider when cohesion helps team performance and how it is best implemented. Now, we should start by acknowledging that cohesion is a good thing for teams, generally speaking. Systematic reviews of all the research on the link between cohesion and performance shows a positive effect. Cohesive teams have a positive morale and are able to coordinate and communicate. Strong cohesion means that team members see eye to eye and have come together under a common team objective. As a team leader or manager, you can do a number of things to enhance cohesion in your team, if you sense a deficit. In terms of team structure, start with a less diverse, more homogeneous team. Assess, acknowledge, and reward performance at the team level rather than at the individual level. Keep the team small, don't change the team composition unless necessary, and try to isolate the team from outside influences. In terms of team process, set goals collectively in order to elicit agreement. Improve communication and informal interactions in the team. Generate a strong team identity, perhaps by promoting competitiveness with other teams. However, cohesion can be a double-edged sword. Too much cohesion means an absence of productive conflict and prioritization of group harmony and consensus over team performance. When cohesion gets out of hand, teams lose psychological safety. Individuals no longer feel like they have the freedom to speak up on key group decisions. In fact, some researchers even define cohesion as resistance to disruption from within the group. Such disruption can be important for achieving the best team outcome rather than the first acceptable outcome. Again, you can shape the team structure and process to diminish cohesion if necessary. Set up the team structure to have lower cohesion by having a more diverse, heterogeneous team. Assess, acknowledge, and reward individual outcomes and contributions rather than team outcomes. Increasing the team's size will likely splinter the group and reduce cohesion as well. You can also swap out for new members if the team gets too cozy with one another, and bring in outside stakeholders to stir up the group if it stagnates. When managing the team process, you can encourage them to question the status quo by using a devil's advocate role, or bringing in outside stakeholders to stir up the group discussion. Reducing the quality of communication in the team can help promote more independent viewpoints. You can even create subgroups to explore different ideas or, cautiously, spark a bit of friendly competition within the team. In sum, although cohesion is generally a good thing for team performance, perhaps this relationship is better understood by recognizing that too little cohesion is bad for team performance, and too much cohesion is also bad for team performance. But perhaps even this is too simple. It is not just about understanding how much cohesion is optimal, but also when cohesion helps the team produce superior results. If we look at how this maps onto Tuckman's stages of team development, we can see that effective teams will have their moments of cohesion and their moments of conflict. Cohesion is high in the forming stage. It drops during the storming stage, begins to recover when norming, and then makes a comeback once the team reaches their performance groove. Those shifts in cohesion and conflict over the team cycle are functional for the team. We could also look at how cohesion interacts with high task commitment or a high performance norm. If the leader has managed to develop a high performance norm in the team, cohesion can elevate team performance. The drawbacks of cohesion are limited because team members prioritize performance over harmony. In contrast, if the team lacks a high-performance norm, cohesion has the opposite effect, reducing team performance. In this case, members are less invested in the team outcomes, so their desire to remain cohesive means that they are willing to sacrifice team outcomes for team harmony. Team stage and team performance norms are just two of the possible contingencies affecting the impact of cohesion on performance. Research also suggests a stronger positive effect of cohesion in smaller groups and in team engagements that require higher levels of interaction, efficiency, or intensity. Clearly, it requires reasoned managerial awareness and judgment to recognize when cohesion is too high and when it is too low. But let's take this even further. Let's consider what we actually mean by cohesion. If we take the time to define the concept, it becomes clear that cohesion is much more nuanced. Cohesion is a dynamic process that is reflected in the tendency for a group to stick together and remain united in the pursuit of its instrumental objectives and/or for the satisfaction of member effective needs. This definition actually reveals at least two aspects of cohesion: instrumental objectives and team member satisfaction. Indeed, most cohesion researchers now agree that it is useful to make the distinction between task cohesion, a group's shared commitment to the shared group task or goal, social cohesion, a shared liking or attraction to the group, and group pride, the pleasure of belonging to a successful, high-status group. All three components of cohesion seem to be related to team performance, but task cohesion shows the strongest relationship, whereas social cohesion shows the weakest relationship. However, research also indicates that within project-based work teams, the social cohesion component becomes more important. I think it is quite clear that the generic view that cohesion is always great for teams oversimplifies its influence on team outcomes. The intention here is not to confuse the issue, but rather to encourage you to recognize that there is a time and a place for every team dynamic. And leading the team requires that you read the situation and carefully consider what intervention is needed. There is no silver bullet for high-performing teams, and too much of a good thing can potentially undermine your team's effectiveness.